Listen to that sound. A slight, almost imperceptible buzz against a cold mahogany desk. It's a $1,500 piece of glass and titanium, lighting up with a cascade of push notifications. Auto draft successful. Minimum payment received. Credit limit increased by $2,000. To the untrained eye, that lock screen looks like victory. It looks like the modern American dream operating flawlessly on autopilot. But let's pan the camera up. Meet Travis. Travis is sitting in a glass-walled corporate conference room, staring blankly at a quarterly projection. He's wearing a custom-tailored suit. Outside, his meticulously detailed German SUV is sitting in a leased parking spot. If you look at Travis's digital footprint, his life is a highlight reel. He is the guy who figured it out. He is the blueprint of success. But underneath that expensive fabric, Travis's chest is tight. His jaw is clenched. His heart is beating a fraction too fast. Why? Because his wife just sent him a text message about a $600 emergency dental bill for their daughter. And Travis, the senior director of operations, the man who just dropped $1,000 on a weekend golf trip, is secretly, desperately doing mental math. He is sitting in a boardroom, sweating under the air conditioning, trying to figure out which piece of platinum plastic has enough margin left to absorb a sudden $600 hit without declining at the terminal. Here is a cold, mathematical truth that the financial industry spends billions of dollars in advertising to hide from you. The most dangerous place in the modern economy isn't the bottom. The bottom is obvious. The bottom hurts, and it forces you to react. The most dangerous place is the middle-class illusion of wealth. It's a comfortable, climate-controlled sedation. It is the velvet-lined mousetrap. We have engineered an entire global culture around the performance of wealth, completely abandoning the mechanics of actually building it. You are conditioned from a birth to believe that your social equity is measured by the badge on your car, the zip code on your mortgage, and the logo on the cup of coffee you hold while walking into a high-rise you don't own to work a job you quietly resent. Travis thinks his corporate title protects him. He thinks that little plastic ID badge clipped to his belt separates him from the hourly wage worker struggling to pay rent. But financially, mathematically, they are standing on the exact same trapdoor. The only difference is the altitude of the fall. Travis looks at his paycheck and feels a surge of false security because the gross number hits 6 figures. He thinks he is the master of his financial spreadsheet, carefully checking off boxes, formatting his life into neat little rows of incoming salaries and outgoing luxury car payments. But cash flow is not equity. A pre-approved credit line is not a safety net. It is a highly calibrated leash. The banks don't give you a black card because they respect your success. They give it to you because they have weaponized your exhaustion. They know that when you leave that office at 7 o'clock, mentally drained and emotionally hollow, you will trade a piece of your future freedom for a temporary dopamine hit. A nice dinner, a new gadget, a vacation you have to finance just to escape the life you built. Travis isn't wealthy. Travis is a highly compensated, beautifully dressed, indentured servant. He is living paycheck to paycheck, just on a much more expensive, heavily polished treadmill. He is one corporate restructuring, one market downturn, one unexpected medical diagnosis away from absolute ruin. The terrifying reality isn't that Travis is uniquely irresponsible. He's not. The terrifying reality is that Travis did exactly what the system instructed him to do. He played by the rules. He got the degree. He climbed the ladder. He financed the lifestyle. And the craziest part isn't that he is currently suffocating under a mountain of premium debt. The craziest part is the invisible, psychological machinery that convinced him to buy the lock, build his own cage, and gladly hand over the key. Once you see how this architecture of debt actually operates behind the curtain, you can never unsee it. The second Travis was promoted to senior director, an invisible clock started ticking. Human Resources handed him a new title, a modest salary bump, and a corner office with a better view of the traffic gridlock below. But they didn't just give him a raise, they handed him a script, a societal expectation of how a senior director is supposed to exist. And this is where the modern financial matrix executes its most devastating trick. They don't force you to spend the money. They make you feel entirely inadequate if you don't. The upgrade industrial complex goes to work. Suddenly, the reliable sedan that carried you through your 20s feels embarrassing in the executive parking garage. The system whispers a specific lie into your exhausted ear. You worked hard for this. You deserve a reward. And here is the brutal philosophical reality. A promotion without a corresponding explosion in your savings rate is not financial growth. It is simply a more expensive collar. You didn't elevate your status. You just increased the operating cost of your own existence. Travis bought the German SUV to project authority. He signed a lease that eats $1,000 of his heavily taxed income every single month. But when he lies awake at 3:00 a.m., the authority is gone. The car sits silently in the driveway, depreciating by the hour, while Travis calculates how many consecutive months he has to keep this high-stress job just to avoid defaulting on the life he built. He is suffering from the chronic disease of the middle class, lifestyle creep. It operates on the insidious premise that your expenses must violently expand to match your income. The gap between what you earn and what you owe shrinks. The more you make, the more premium the debt becomes. Corporate America demands 50 hours of your prime cognitive energy. By Friday evening, you are a hollow shell. You are too drained to even think about building real wealth. Phase 2. The exhaustion tax. So you outsource your happiness. You swipe the platinum card for a $200 dinner, not because the food is exceptional, but because for 2 hours, you get to pretend you are the master of your universe. It is retail therapy disguised as lifestyle. You are buying temporary anesthesia to numb the pain of a Monday morning you are dreading. You aren't purchasing luxury. You are paying a ransom to your own burnout. The banking system watches this cycle with absolute delight. They are the architects of the maze. They don't want you broken on the street. A broken consumer is useless. They want you highly functional, well-dressed, and heavily leveraged. They want you running on the wheel, chasing the synthetic cheese of social approval, generating just enough velocity to pay the interest rate on the traps you willingly stepped into. You think you are leveraging their credit to build your life. The terrifying truth is that they are leveraging your life to build their balance sheets. Your future labor has already been sold to investors, while you are picking out the leather trim for a car you don't actually own. And if you dare to stop running, the facade violently collapses. Let's strip away the leather seats, the corporate titles, and the fragile ego. Let's look at the only thing that actually dictates your survival in the modern world: the math. Travis sits in that boardroom believing he is shielded from the harsh realities of financial ruin because his retirement account looks decent on a PDF and his house in the suburbs has appreciated by 20% on a real estate app. He has fallen for the most lethal cognitive trap in personal finance. He has confused illiquid net worth with actual, breathable oxygen. Here is a reality check the wealth managers will never give you over their overpriced lattes. You cannot feed your family with a Zillow estimate. Equity trapped inside four walls of drywall and a depreciating roof is just a bedtime story the middle class tells itself, so it doesn't wake up screaming in the middle of the night. Let's run the autopsy on Travis's financial bloodstream. He grosses $180,000 a year. On paper, it sounds like an impenetrable fortress. But after the government takes its aggressive cut, the mandatory insurance premiums, and the retirement contributions he can't touch without massive penalties, he takes home roughly $10,000 a month. Now watch how fast the system drains the tank. $4,000 instantly evaporates for the mortgage on a house he is barely awake long enough to enjoy. $1,000 vanishes to lease the German SUV that sits idle in traffic. $2,000 is burned on premium childcare because both parents have to work relentlessly just to maintain the aesthetic of the neighborhood. Add the utilities, the organic groceries, and the crushing minimum payments on the credit cards used to float last year's desperate vacation. The remaining margin? It's zero. Every single dollar is allocated before the direct deposit even clears the server. Travis isn't building a treasury. He is operating a high-speed money laundering operation for the banks. The money touches his account for 36 hours before it is forcefully redistributed back to the institutions that own his life. And this is where the physics of the trap become terrifying. The trap doesn't snap shut when you take the cheese. It snaps shut when the cheese runs out, and you suddenly realize you are locked inside the maze with a mountain of mandatory operational costs. Phase 3. The 30-day guillotine. What happens if the music stops? Let's say Human Resources calls Travis into a brightly lit office tomorrow morning. The company is restructuring. His position is eliminated. They disable his keycard. In exactly 30 days, Travis isn't just broke. He is facing catastrophic systemic failure. He has a closet full of custom suits, an $800,000 house, and absolutely zero immediate liquidity. Cash is oxygen, and Travis has been holding his breath for 10 years. Week 1, the severance pay, if he even gets one, goes straight to the existing credit card balances to stop the bleeding. Week 2, the auto drafts start hitting the checking account like mortar shells. The SUV payment. The country club dues he forgot to cancel. Week 3, the panic sets in. He tries to access the equity in his home, but guess what? Banks do not give lines of credit to unemployed men. The exact institution that smiled at him when he had a corporate paycheck will lock the heavy glass doors and watch him drown the second the cash flow stops. You don't measure wealth by how much money you can spend on a Friday night to impress strangers. You measure wealth by how many days you can survive if you never work another Friday in your life. By week 4, the man who considered himself part of the elite is logging into his retirement portal, preparing to swallow a massive tax penalty just to keep the lights on and stop the foreclosure notices. That is the illusion entirely shattered. He never possessed wealth. He only possessed the temporary permission to rent a wealthy lifestyle, conditional on his absolute, unquestioning obedience to his corporate masters. He is a hostage in a tailored suit, entirely dependent on the next paycheck to prevent the immediate collapse of his entire identity. The system relies on your continuous, uninterrupted panic. It needs you to look at Travis, the man suffocating inside his freshly waxed German SUV, and feel a deep, gnawing sense of envy. But now you know the autopsy results. You finally have the answer to the question that haunts the premium broke class. Why is a senior director having a secret, silent panic attack over a $500 medical bill? Because the math finally caught up with the aesthetic. He spent a decade building a magnificent, high-definition movie set, and he just realized the walls are made of cheap cardboard. He chose to look wealthy to strangers in rush hour traffic instead of actually being wealthy in the quiet, unglamorous privacy of his own bank account. He happily swallowed the poisoned cheese, and now he is shocked that the trap broke his spine. True financial sovereignty requires the total, unapologetic assassination of your own ego. The exact second you require another human being to visually validate your net worth, you have voluntarily handed over the master keys to your freedom. So, what is the exit strategy? It is a concept the marketing algorithms and credit bureaus absolutely despise. It is the tactical, aggressive pursuit of stealth wealth. You cannot out-earn your own stupidity, and you cannot outwork systemic inflation. You must execute a voluntary, strategic downgrade of your existence before the economy forcefully executes one for you. You take the luxury vehicle back to the dealership and trade the heavy lease for a reliable, invisible, 10-year-old piece of Japanese metal that you own outright. You stop treating your primary residence as a luxury resort to entertain guests you barely like, and you start treating it as a low-overhead fortress of solitude. You sever the subscriptions. You embrace the profound, beautiful, unapologetic boredom of extreme financial stability. You build the cash wall. Phase 4. The blueprint of the ghost. The people who actually control their destiny do not wear it on their wrists. They operate entirely in the shadows of the consumer economy. They are the ghosts at the neighborhood barbecue. Picture the scene. While everyone else is standing around the grill, aggressively defending their terrible financial decisions, comparing the cashback rewards on their maximum limit credit cards, and complaining about the corporate bosses they cannot afford to quit. The ghost just smiles, sips a glass of ice water, and remains completely silent. The ghost doesn't need to engage in the theater of success. He doesn't need to prove his dominance because his high-yield savings account holds 2 full years of baseline living expenses. His capital is out there in the global market, quietly compounding, working brutal night shifts so his physical body doesn't have to. He has successfully acquired the rarest, most lethal asset in a hyper-connected, hyper-leveraged world: absolute optionality. The raw, unfiltered power of the word no. No, I won't answer emails on a Sunday. No, I will not accept that promotion if it costs me my physical health. No, I am not financing another piece of depreciating plastic garbage to fill a manufactured emotional void. When you have liquidity, emergencies become minor inconveniences. A broken transmission isn't a crisis that ruins your marriage. It is just a Tuesday annoyance that you fix with a debit card. Phase 5. The asymmetry of freedom. Escaping the maze is a deeply lonely endeavor. The pack will resent you for it. The other lab rats will look at your intentional, modest lifestyle and immediately assume you are failing at the game. They will mock your lack of designer labels. Let them run on the spinning metal wheel until their knees give out. Their applause is astronomically expensive, and you can no longer afford to finance it. You are making a permanent trade. You are exchanging the heavy, suffocating golden handcuffs of social validation for the light, invisible, bulletproof armor of liquid cash. You are finally taking back your oxygen. If you are still listening to my voice, you are part of a very small, very dangerous statistical minority. You are waking up to the math. If you are ready to stop renting your lifestyle and start owning your finite time on this earth, hit the subscribe button. Join the individuals who are quietly dismantling the trap from the inside. And if you survived this financial autopsy until the very end, Drop a comment below saying Cardboard McMansion. The algorithms won't understand it. The premium broke consumers will be completely confused, but we will know exactly who you are. My name is Daniel Rath, and I'll see you outside the maze.